When I moved my logistics company's headquarters into a small industrial park on the edge of a suburban neighborhood, I knew there would be challenges. But I never expected the Homeowners Association, HOA, to become my fiercest opponent. For weeks, I endured anonymous complaints, official letters, and thinly veiled threats from the HOA about my fleet of trucks. The issue: the HOA insisted that my fleet parking violated their community guidelines, claiming that the vehicles were an eyesore, caused noise disturbances, and possibly violated local zoning laws. Their tone was aggressive. They threatened to report me to the city code enforcement and even the police for illegal commercial vehicle storage unless I removed my trucks immediately. They seemed to think I was just another small business owner, oblivious to the severity of their warnings. They were wrong. You see, I'm a retired FBI agent. 25 years in the Bureau gave me a thorough understanding of law enforcement, federal regulations, and investigative procedures. Now I run a legitimate logistics and freight company with a fleet of well-maintained trucks. I understand the importance of compliance, and I don't take unfounded threats lightly. At first, I tried the polite route. I emailed the HOA board explaining that my fleet was legally parked on my own industrial property and that my operations complied with all relevant city, state, and federal laws. I offered to provide documentation proving the legality of my business and the legitimacy of the vehicles. The HOA board was unmoved. Their response came from a particularly vocal member named Linda, who seemed determined to make an example out of me. She threatened to escalate the matter by reporting my fleet to the police and city zoning authorities, insisting that the neighborhood's peace and aesthetic standards must be upheld. Linda's emails became increasingly hostile. I realized this wasn't about the trucks or the rules. It was about control. At this point, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I scheduled a face-to-face meeting with the HOA board at their monthly gathering. When I arrived, I was greeted with cautious stares and whispered conversations. I introduced myself, not just as the business owner, but as a retired FBI agent who had served in numerous high-stakes investigations. I calmly explained that I understood the legal boundaries far beyond what the HOA seemed to grasp, and that any attempt to falsely report or disrupt my lawful business operations would be met with a firm legal response. I presented them with my business licenses, vehicle registrations, and zoning permits, all perfectly in order. I even showed them letters from the city confirming that my operations were compliant with local codes. Linda, visibly taken aback, tried to argue that the truck still disrupted the neighborhood's character. I responded with empathy, explaining that I was willing to work with the community to minimize noise and avoid parking during early mornings or late nights. I also offered to landscape the property to improve its appearance. The room was quiet for a moment. Then, the HOA president spoke up, acknowledging that while they were concerned about appearances, they hadn't fully understood the scope of my business or its legal standing. I emphasized that compliance wasn't optional for me. After years in law enforcement, I knew the consequences of breaking laws all too well. I also reminded them that retaliatory actions or false reports could lead to legal liabilities for the HOA. In the end, the board agreed to halt all threats of reporting and fines. They accepted my commitment to cooperate and maintain a reasonable schedule for fleet operations. Over time, they even appreciated the improvements I made to the property, which included additional fencing and greenery. This experience was a reminder of how often assumptions and misunderstandings can lead to unnecessary conflict. Had they known who I was, perhaps they would have approached the situation differently. But I'm glad I was able to use my background to educate and resolve the issue without further escalation. Now my fleet operates smoothly, neighbors are more informed and respectful, and I'm reminded that sometimes a calm and firm approach combined with transparency can diffuse even the most stubborn disputes.